decide to live today. You know you're officially getting older when you find yourself beginning to say all the cliches your parents used to say. And like the worst part is you mean them. You know what I mean? You feel it. Like one day you wake up and your vocabulary has aged 2 decades and you realize that cliches exist for a reason. And the reason most of the time is because they're true. So let me just give you a few weather cliches because we can all relate to that. I was in Colorado a few days ago and somebody said this to me. Hey, if you don't like the weather in Colorado, wait 5 minutes. Am I right? And you are. You're a little annoying, but you are right. In Texas, we say this one. Hey, it's not the heat that gets you, it's the humidity. Man, there's not a dad in the state of Texas who hasn't said that. It's like a rite of passage. For every brand new Austinite who steps outside in July and goes, it's hot, there will be a dad who's cliched our pings. And all of a sudden, they're right there to let you know, hey, about that heat, it's actually not the heat that gets you. It's the humidity. And then poof, they're gone. And they fulfilled their purpose for the day. One more weather cliche before we move on. I'm convinced regardless of the country or the culture, if it starts downpouring, dads all over the world will step outside, look at the rain, take a deep breath and go, we needed this. And you know what? We did. Is that the great cloud of witnesses applauding, or is this my lawn? Or both? Man, you guys are just getting gold material from me already today. Oh, to be you on the receiving end of these jokes. But to be honest, in my current season, it's parenting cliches that hit closest to home. How about this one? The days are long, but the years are short. Or this one, usually somebody says to you when you're on hour 2 on the flight and your kid's been screaming the whole time, you're gonna miss this. And you're like, you mean this though? This part? You're gonna miss this. You're gonna want this back. You're gonna wish these days hadn't gone by so fast. It's fine, I'll handle it. You guys just relax, I'll take care of everything today. But the last few words of that chorus, as cheesy as they are, I don't know if truer words have ever been spoken, so help me finish this cliche. They grow up so fast, and they really do. I'm that dad now who says that to other parents. They grow up so fast. A few Friday nights ago, we were driving as a family to the Vandergrift High School football game. Just the national or the state champs from 2024, not a big deal. It's kind of a big deal. But we were getting our Friday night lights on, living our best life. And Kinsley, our 4-year-old, was in her car seat, 4 years old going on 14. And she's got her pink bow in her hair. She's got her pink Vandergrift Vipers cheer t-shirt. And I look at her, I'm like, did you just age a year in like a month? Just my dad heart, so much pain, you know, like stop growing. And my wife, Sam, turns around and says, Kinsley, would you stop growing? And true story, Kinsley says back to her, Mommy, I can't help it. God is controlling me. To which I said, I think if that were true, you'd be a better listener, all right? Seems like there's a little God and a lot of kins going on, you know? But what do I know? I'm just a pastor. I think if God was controlling you, you'd be able to tie your shoes in under 7 minutes. We might be able to get anywhere on time. God's controlling me. She gets that from me. I used to be the pastor out in that lobby. Anytime one of you would come up to me after service and say, Pastor, loved the message. That was a great sermon. I would immediately deflect in the name of being super spiritual and holy. It's all God. No, I know. I'm just saying we really enjoyed the message. No, don't try to compliment me. Don't try to build me up. It's all God. Until somebody said back to me, well, it wasn't that good. How good is that? That is so true. Hey, let's just call it what it is. That was in Matthew 6, Sermon on the Mount. Like, there was a lot of Doug in that sermon, okay? It's all God. Oh yeah, well then why did you work for 20 hours this week to prep for it? If it was like, can't it be like God and you or God through you? Isn't he sovereign and at the same time you have responsibility and free will? This is another sermon. This is not even my point. Let's get back to Kinsley's point. God is controlling me. In fairness to her, she has no say about how fast she grows. She's growing up and there's nothing that she or her mom and I can do about it, but my gosh, they grow up so fast. Like she's gonna be 5 in a few weeks, and I feel like it was yesterday that she was almost born in my car in the middle of the night, 11 minutes after we got to the hospital in a rainstorm like a movie scene. Feels like just yesterday. If the days are so long, and a lot of them are, then why does it feel like life happens so fast? And I think because the longer we live in this world where we will have trouble, the more the world continues to condition us to worry about tomorrow. And our worries about tomorrow keep us from truly living today. Worry makes the days long and the years so fast. And for us in 2025, it's not just about provision. For a lot of us right now in tough times, it is. Where will I get my next meal? What about bills next month? What will I wear? But you could zoom out, it gets even bigger than that. It's the economy. It's what's happening on the other side of the world. It's the diagnosis. It's what if my marriage doesn't make it? Or I'm getting older, what if I never meet the right person? What if I mess up my kids? What if my kids mess me up? What if the doctor calls and it's not good news? What if I miss my calling altogether? What if I'm making this big life decision and I choose wrong and I go left, but God wanted me to go right and now I ruin his plans for the rest of my life? And here's a thought. What if you set your mind on the good what ifs? I once heard Pastor Stephen Furtick say, what if works both ways? Does it not? Isn't fear just your faith in the bad what if? Doesn't what if work both ways? What if I never meet somebody? What if you do? What if we never get pregnant? What if you do? And what if it's this month? And if I'm talking to you, please know I pray for you every single day that 10 years from now, you got more than what you bargained for. Well, what if this? Well, what if that? What if works both ways? That's why Paul tells us in Colossians 3:2 to set our minds on things above, not on earthly things. Set your mind on the good what ifs. And set it doesn't mean set it and then forget it. I wish it were that easy. But none of us woke up this morning with our mind set on things above. This is not passive, Red Rocks. This is active. You set your mind, and then 30 minutes later, you reset it. And then an hour after that, you set it again. And then by this evening, you're resetting it and setting it a few more times, like a thermostat in any house in Colorado where the weather changes every 5 minutes. Am I right? You set it, and then you reset it, and then you set it again. Set your minds on things above. Set your mind on the good what ifs, because your life is moving in the direction of wherever it is that you set your mind, way more than we care to admit or think about. And in this series, Kiss the Fire, based out of Pastor Sean's book, where he unpacks his recent journey with a diagnosis of Parkinson's. And he's 53 and he has such healthy habits and all of life ahead of him, man. And to see him walk through this the way he has, the book is about how to get back up when we want to stay down. This whole series is about how to live really, really well when life really, really hurts, because pain is real. And suffering with Christ, the Bible doesn't shy away from that. It doesn't make false promises. That's why I trust it. Jesus himself is the one who said, in this world, you will have trouble. You will face fires. A fire is a challenge or a circumstance not going according to plan. And every fire, I've learned, is a package deal that comes with the whole set of shiny new what ifs. What ifs that steal the peace, the joy, and the purpose from right beneath your feet. That's why you must decide. I've talked a lot this year about the power of choosing. A lot of times I'll be in meetings where people will ask me, Pastor, what does God want me to do? And more I find myself saying, he wants you to choose. The power of free will he's given you within his sovereignty to make a decision, decide to live today. So let's break down how to do that. If you're gonna decide to live today, first of all, let's talk about tomorrow. Because Jesus didn't say don't think about tomorrow, he said don't worry about tomorrow. He didn't say don't plan ahead, he said don't worry ahead. So for anybody in here, which I know is a lot of us facing maybe a financial fire, worried about money next month. The fastest way to continue to always have to worry about money next month is to not be obedient with what God has already given you to steward this month. And this doesn't matter the size of a paycheck. You could be making one of the biggest paychecks ever and still be worrying about next month or next year if you don't have the promised, the presence and the promise of God's provision. Because when God gets your obedience today, that's when you can trust God's outcome tomorrow. And where you really find the peace you're looking for is in God's outcome, not in your ability to handle this in an autonomous way on my own. It's when God gets your obedience today, whether it's money or any other part of your life, you begin to trust his outcome tomorrow. You settle into the fact that you have a heavenly Father who knows what you need. And as you seek first his kingdom, he takes care of you. And that's when you really begin to live today. Because first of all, in regards to tomorrow, you're not promised it. And we all know this. We just forget it so fast. We're not promised tomorrow. James 4:13-14 says this, look here, you who say, hey, today or tomorrow, we're gonna go to a certain town and maybe we'll stay there for a year and we'll do business there and we'll make a profit over here. And then James goes, okay, pause. How do you know what your life will even be like tomorrow? Your life is like the morning fog. It's here a little while and then it's gone. I don't know if you've ever thought about this concept, but Pastor Sean has a pastor. Because everybody needs a pastor, even pastors, especially Red Rocks pastors, but that's not news to you. And 3 years ago, when he was originally diagnosed with this degenerative brain disease, described to him as quote unquote, uncurable barring a miracle, which, quick pause, sidebar, good news for Sean and good news for all of us. We have a way-making God who's in the business of doing just that. He does miracles and he heals all the time. And I believe with all my heart, with all the faith that I got, that Sean's is on the way. And there would be regeneration in his brain and renewing of his mind in Jesus' name. I believe we're gonna see that. But 3 years ago, when he got that diagnosis, he was talking to his pastor, Pastor Chris, about all the bad what ifs about tomorrow. What if this progresses faster than we think? And what if my wife is feeding me 10 years from now? What if I can't play catch and play football with my kids in the front yard? What if me and Jill can't go on all the trips we dreamed about taking one day when we retire? What if? I mean, those are real what ifs. Here's a quote from his book. If I'm not careful, I can spend my whole day focusing on my problem, my fire, and not actually living life to the fullest. All my thoughts, where my mind is set, all my energy, all my attention end up going to the what ifs. What is next week gonna be like? What is next month gonna be like? And Pastor Chris, in his fashion, is just kind of listening and letting Sean vent. And when Sean finally finished, Chris smiled at him and said, all those could happen. Or you could get hit by a bus next month and then this diagnosis did not matter at all. And in a weird way, there's something ironically freeing about that. If you think about it, like if you got hit by a bus in 2 weeks, you'd have no more problems. And it's not because you'll be dead. It's actually the opposite. It's because in that moment, you will be more alive than you have ever been. And you will no longer be in this world that gives you all the trouble. Instead, you will be officially and forever with the one who has overcome the world, doing better than you have ever been. And what I just said to you is not a crutch to make you feel better about the fire you're facing today. Heaven and new earth and Jesus renewing and restoring all things once and for all for the rest of eternity, that is not a fairy tale. It is a reality that is more true and more real than the very chair you are sitting on right now. That to live is Christ, to die is gain. That's not a cliche we say. That is the truth. And if that's true and we're not guaranteed tomorrow, then decide to live today regardless of the fires you're facing. For there is not a better way to give the devil a middle finger than that. You decide to live today regardless of the trouble he might bring your way. Go skydiving. Rocky Mountain climbing. Maybe 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu. Once again, it's fine. I'll take care of it, guys. The lyrics are so cheesy, but so true. One day, I hope you get the chance to live like you're gonna get hit by a bus in 2 weeks. And in Jesus' name, you won't. But if you live that way, I bet you'd forgive faster. I bet you would feel deeper. I bet the million stupid things you're worrying about today that are robbing you of the gift that is this moment, you wouldn't worry about. I bet you'd hug your kids longer. Bet you'd take your wife on more dates. I bet you'd FaceTime your parents more. I bet you'd be on social media a lot less, if at all, and instead just be in the room face to face with the people you love. I bet you'd give with more generosity. I bet you'd sink more into the moment. See, don't be afraid, Red Rocks, to feel your mortality. It's actually biblical. David prayed in the Psalms, teach me to number my days that I might maximize each of them. The more you feel how finite you are, the more you begin to sink deeper and deeper into the present moment. Because I don't know what your what ifs are. What if I get sick? What if you don't? What if my marriage fails? What if it doesn't? And what if the hard season you're going through right now makes your marriage great on the other side, when without it, you would have just always had a marriage that's fine? What if I get laid off? What if you do? And what if 6 months from now, God has something better in store for you? I don't know your what ifs, but I can tell you what is. One more thing about tomorrow, Jesus already took care of it. There's roughly 2,500 prophecies in the Bible. 2,000 of them have already come true and taken place and been fulfilled. 300 of those 2,000 were about the first coming or the birth of Jesus. The 500 remaining to be fulfilled are about the second coming of Jesus, when Jesus comes back, which could be before church is over. Like while we're worshiping, that'd be kind of dope if Jesus came back and you're in church, just here, Lord, in your house, worshiping. That worked out really well. But you know the day I'm talking about, when Jesus comes back, the day when every knee will bow and every tongue will confess, and Satan and all of his little demon minions and all of evil is locked up into hell for the rest of eternity, never again to give trouble to any of God's kids at all. And you want to know how you can trust that Jesus is coming back a second time? Because Jesus came the first time. And 2,000 prophecies already fulfilled should tell us a thing or two about God's track record. He doesn't bluff. He doesn't lie. He's taken care of the ending. John Lennon said, everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. So decide to live today. You can trust him with the ending because he's the one who created the beginning. Think about that. All of this universe, this human existence has a beginning. It's actually been proven. Back in 2003, they proved that the universe we live in is expanding. Don't ask me how you proved that, but they proved it. So imagine for a second this balloon is the universe. Expanding. So you, me, the earth we live on, our moon, every galaxy in the entire universe, right now in a universe that is expanding out in every direction at the speed of light right now. If that's true, and it is, then let's pause and press rewind for a second and go back in time, when the universe was a little bit smaller, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, millions of years ago, depending on what you believe about the age of the earth and the universe. Don't get too hung up on that right now. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm just saying it's not what we're talking about at the moment. So don't get distracted. Just back in time, back to the warning track. Sorry for the fart sound. The universe, by definition, began. And if that's true, and if something can't come from nothing, and if everything that begins to exist must have a cause for its existence, then the question is what or who was around before the universe in order to begin it. So you can't say it's just energy, because that energy would have to have a cause for its existence. And you can't say, well, it's just matter, because there would have to be something around before the matter in order to begin the matter. Whatever began time and space, by definition, must be outside of time and space. And also, by definition, must be immaterial and eternal. With that in mind, Colossians 1:17, he existed before anything else, and he holds all creation together. Another translation says, he is before all things, and in him, somebody say in him, and in him all things hold together. So time and space itself, the timeline of all of the universe's existence from beginning to end, or said this way, the Alpha to the Omega, exists in him. Which means that moment all those years ago, when God spoke, let there be light, and in one big bang, the universe exploded out in every direction, and to this day is still expanding. That day is not a time and place God used to be. It's a time and place he is right now. He is not like us, you guys. Tomorrow, the thing you worry about so much, that's not a time and place he'll be 24 hours from now, like you. It's a time and place he is. Because all of time itself, all of space itself is in him. Said another way, he is outside, he is timeless, and he is spaceless, which means the beginning and the end, and everything in between is anchored in him. You guys, he is so sovereign, he is so big, he is so other, so in control, so powerful, and when you ground yourself in God's bigness, what happens is you begin to sink more and more into the present. It primes your heart for wonder, which leads your heart to worship. Don't worry about tomorrow. Let tomorrow worry about itself. Better yet, let God worry about it. He's already there, doing fine. You decide to live today. So there's some perspective based off of time. Let me give you some more perspective based on space. This is our Milky Way galaxy. It's a composite image. To quote Louis Giglio, this is our subdivision in the universe. The Milky Way galaxy is called a barred spiral galaxy, in case you care, and for the record, God cares. He loves astronomy. It was his idea. He talks about it all the time in the scriptures. The Milky Way galaxy from end to end is 100,000 light years across. What that means is light traveling at the speed of light, 186,000 miles a second, takes 100,000 years to cross it. So if you think we got neighbors out there on the other side of our subdivision, and maybe we do, I don't know, I've never been there, but you wanna go visit them for a party, whatever you do, don't bring potato salad. You better be packing some serious non-perishables. And you better have a spaceship that can go the speed of light. And all you have to do is hop in that spaceship and go the speed of light, 186,000 miles a second for 100,000 years, and you will get there. That's a long road trip. So you better pee before we get on the road, all right? Like I said, this is gold. These jokes are gold. God made that by talking. Psalm 33:6, the Lord merely spoke and the heavens were created. He breathed the word and all the stars were born. Yet still a lot of my prayers are me advising God. God, I'm not sure you're seeing the fire that I'm facing right now. It doesn't seem like you are, so let me draw you a diagram and consult you a little bit on how I would handle this situation and how you should run the universe that you breathed out of your mouth. But this is called perspective, which means to put things in their proper place. Perspective leads to worship, and as long as you're worshiping, you're not worrying. It's maybe why you walk out of here and you're like, I just feel good. Why do I feel good? Probably because you were worshiping and you were not worrying. So now if you're thinking, okay, the Milky Way, I know what this is. I remember from second grade, the puzzle and the coloring page. This is the solar system, like Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus. I'm gonna pronounce it that way because I still can't believe adults named it that. Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, R.I.P. Pluto. I'm like, just let it be a planet, man. You know what I mean? Anyways, No, this is not our solar system. This is the Milky Way galaxy. It is one of 200 billion galaxies in the known expanding universe right now. And within this one galaxy are 100 billion solar systems, one of which is ours, right about there. Snuggled right between two of the spiral arms in what we call a galactic habitable zone. Louis Giglio says, nothing should shout to us, by the way, that we're not the point, more than the fact that we're not even at the center of our own subdivision in the universe. And this LED wall is like 18 feet long or something like that. The same LED wall that Jesus used in the Sermon on the Mount, by the way. We're really lucky to have it. And I don't know if LED walls have pixels, but even with the size of this screen, 1 pixel would be about 1,000 times too big for you to even have a shot at seeing our solar system. But if you zoom in far enough, eventually you will find one star. Not the biggest or the baddest star of the billions of stars in that galaxy, but it is the most strangely consistent and perfectly placed star that we know about. We call it the sun, and around it right now, orbiting at 67,000 miles an hour, is the Earth, our home. That is a real picture taken from Apollo 17 in 1972. And what I want you to feel is every fire you have ever faced, every fire, every problem, every bit of pain anybody has ever faced in all of history, from the smallest of worry to every world war, has taken place on this planet that the astronomy world affectionately refers to as the little blue marble. All of it right there. And I'm not trying to minimize your fire. I'm trying to maximize your God. This is the art, the discipline of God perspective. Because as your God perspective gets bigger, you keep your fire in its proper place. It's not minimizing the mountain, it's maximizing your God who sits above, over your mountain right now. And there's real fires in this church, in this service right now. If we could pass the microphone around, oh my goodness, the pain and the suffering and the heat of thousands of fires that all of us collectively are feeling, that is so real. I'm just saying there's something else that's even more real at the same time. In this world, on that planet, we will have trouble. But Jesus said, take heart, for I have also overcome all sin and all trouble and all pain on that planet. I hold the universe in my hands. I hold that earth in my hands. He holds your very heart in his hands as well. The same God who by speaking created the earth and all of its surrounding heavens that we just saw is the same God who not only knows every hair on your head, but knows every fire you're facing to a degree of intimacy where he counts and keeps every tear you've ever cried. He is infinite and he is intimate at the same time. He is the God who cannot be exaggerated, who knows you better than you know yourself, who's a good father who cares deeply about you. And if that God is for you, then who can be against you? And you know the answer to that question. It's no thing and no one. Guys, he is so sovereign. He's so big. He's outside of time and space, for he is the maker of those things. He took care of tomorrow. So let's talk about today. Because at some point, your some days must become your 2 days. I didn't make that up. Sean wrote that in his book. But I made this up. Eventually, next must become now. We always talk about, man, what is God doing next? That's just easier to talk about because it's an idea, which are safer than realities. But at some point, what God's doing next must become what God is doing now. His plans are today. Life is happening today. He is outside of time and space, but he enters into those things in this moment, in this breath. The most effective way, I believe, to live today by far is this: get grateful. I didn't say wake up grateful. I would say the human condition, like our default state is usually not to wake up grateful, but I did say to get grateful. Because gratitude, which is basically a superpower, gratitude will get you through any fire this world could ever throw at you. And I don't say that flippantly because I know the fires in this room. I'm in all the conversations with you guys about the real stuff, and it's real stuff. I'm talking to you about how powerful gratitude is. You ever meet somebody who's been through the fires that you fear? And they come out the other side and they're smiling, talking about how good God is, talking about all the things they have to be grateful for. And man, I'll let that person give me advice any day of the week because that faith has been refined and tested. Gratitude is a superpower that gets you through. Harvard Health Publishing says this: gratitude is strongly and consistently associated with greater happiness. Gratitude helps people feel more positive emotions, relish good experiences, improve their health, deal with adversity, said another way, facing fires, and building strong relationships. Studies show small daily moments of practiced gratitude lead to massive shifts in the rest of your life, improving mental health and physical health. The list just goes on and on and on. In the science community, they're calling gratitude right now the fountain of youth for your brain. So I don't know if you've ever wanted a superpower, super strength, invisibility perhaps, shooting webs out of your wrist to swing from tall buildings and kiss girls upside down. To quote Michael Scott, Jesus Christ had the power of flight and could heal leopards. I don't know what yours would be, but nothing will empower you to truly live today like gratitude. It is an absolute superpower. Because while the human bent is something called negativity bias, which because of sin, we're just all born with. It's like a survival. Some of us have a lot of it, some of us have a little of it. We all have it where we're really good at seeing what could go wrong and really good at seeing what has gone wrong. And we are expert designers of the worst case scenario. And we give all of our attention and we set our minds on that worst case scenario. It's like all we think about. We even bond over what makes us upset. I'm mad. Are you mad? Let's be mad together. We're all upset. And we get together and we have conversations, really good ones, about what bothers us. Way more than we have good conversations about what we're grateful for. So gratitude gives you a new way to see the same world and the same fire. Paul writes this from a prison cell, okay? In Philippians 4:8. And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts, set your mind on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. And I love how gritty that is because he's not telling you to ignore the fires. Faith doesn't mean pretend the bad things don't exist. Faith is stronger and grittier than that. Paul is saying, face the fire. You got to feel the flames, but you fix your mind and set your thoughts on what is good and right. And he's writing this from prison, not a good experience, knowing his death is coming for him any day. And Paul says, okay, I know there's a lot to be frustrated about, but what is there to be grateful for? I know, you guys, there's a lot of things that are wrong, not just in our world, but in your life. What I'm asking you right now is, what is right? Because if you started listing those things, you give that 3 minutes and the floodgates of gratitude begin to open. You start thinking about things you haven't been grateful for in 5 years. And all of a sudden you're facing the same fire and living in the same world, but you're doing it with a superpower you did not have before called gratitude. I was driving to the airport early last Saturday at 5 a.m, going south on 35, trying to catch a flight, dead stop traffic. And I'm like, of course. I was so frustrated. I was like, of course this is happening to me, because it always does. It's like the government knows when I'm gonna get on 35. Just having a pity party in my car, and then I finally pass the accident, and there's 3 fire trucks, 3 ambulances, 10 cop cars, all with their lights on. And I realize, okay, there's a man on a stretcher being loaded into an ambulance, and I figure out it's a motorcycle accident on the highway. And all of a sudden, man, something like shifted in my spirit. I'm like repenting. God, I'm not having the worst morning on this highway today. Start like praying for this man. Would you be with him? Would you send angel armies to surround them and be with the family and the first responders and the doctors? And my attention goes to him. And then all of a sudden my spirit starts, like at the same time, in the same space, feeling gratitude for things I wasn't grateful for and didn't even remember that I had 2 minutes before when I was throwing my pity party. And I was like, God, I haven't told you this in a while, but thank you that I have breath in my lungs. And thank you that I get to fly today and travel, and I have a car that works, and I get to see my kids and hug them and my wife in a couple of days. And gets me thinking about the words of Jesus one more time from John 16:33. In this world, you will have trouble. That's true. But this verse has 2 parts that are both true. But take heart, I have overcome the world. Now, both parts are true. And the fact that the second part is true doesn't make the first half any less true. Both are equally true. The question is, which half of that verse gets your focus? Is it the fact that there's fires and in this world there's trouble? Because the more I focus on that, the more I worry. Or is it the fact that Jesus has overcome this world? Because the more I focus on that, the more I begin to worship. And it's not because I'm ignoring fires. I actually am more empowered to face them with greater faith and greater courage, feeling the flames, knowing God is using them to refine me. And I also am more able supernaturally to like fix my thoughts and set my mind on what is going right, on what I do have to be grateful for. A fire is a challenge or a circumstance not going according to plan. We have a ton of those. There's a lot of things wrong. My question for you is, what is right though? Because I wanted to finish this Kiss the Fire series focusing on what is pure and what is good and what there is today to be grateful for. What there is today that is noble and worthy of praise and lovely and beautiful. And Paul says, if you're not careful, you become obsessed with the fire rather than facing the fire, feeling the flames, and with your mind set on things above, walking away, whistling, saying, Jesus has overcome this entire world. What is there today to be grateful for? Think about such things. The air that is in my lungs that do work right now. The blood that my beating heart is pumping through my working body right now. The loved ones who are here that I get to hug. The weather that is 63 and sunny in Austin in November and perfect today. Like, the new day that we're given, which is an absolute miracle and an absolute gift. Think about such things. Get grateful. It is your superpower. So last but not least, we can do this. Live the fullest life you can. Over the last couple of years, I've had a front row seat to watch Sean do this. Better than almost anybody I've ever seen. And it got me thinking about priorities, because think about this. Your priorities are not actually your priorities until you prioritize them. And that sounds so obvious, but what I mean is it doesn't matter what you want your priorities to be. It doesn't matter what you say they are. Because you can say all day, my family is a priority, but when all you think about is work when you're with your kids. Or you can say, my friends are a priority, but I mean, you cancel on friends all the time for work. When was the last time you canceled on work to be with a friend? Or you can say God is a priority, but you only go to him when it's a last resort. I'm just saying, there's a difference between having good intentions and living with intention. And I've gotten to watch Sean really live with intention, prioritizing what really matters most and deciding to live today. Here's one last quote from Kiss the Fire. A few years into this diagnosis, I've learned that life is too short to say no to quality time with the people you love. I'm a better dad than I was before getting this diagnosis. I'm a better husband than I was before getting this diagnosis. I appreciate each day way more than I did before, and now I take advantage of every opportunity I get. So here's my final question. Does it take a diagnosis to live that way? Does it take a crisis or a tragedy to really wake up to what matters most? Does the fire need to get hot enough before we truly prioritize what's important and decide to live today? Or can we simply decide with the willpower God has freely given us to choose? Can we choose, I'm gonna live today and let tomorrow worry about itself? I believe with all my heart that you can choose to do that right here and right now. And maybe you feel like that's impossible for you. Maybe it is, but you're not just you. You have God through you. And what was impossible for you becomes possible with his divine supernatural power within you to live today. Because Psalm 118:24 says, this is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice. That's the verb of joy. We will rejoice and be glad in it. None of us are promised tomorrow, and God's already taken care of it. Choose to live today. Get grateful and live the fullest life you can this Sunday, which is a gift. Amen.